Hi, I'm Anne-Marie Mediwake.
I'm Lindsey Deluce.
And I'm Kelsey McEwen.
Welcome to CTV Your Morning, the podcast.
Today on the podcast, SterlingKBrown joins us to talk about the second season of his hit show Paradise. And he's also reflecting on the past decade of his really successful career.
We're also going to be joined by Dr. Goldman. He spent 40 years working in the ER, and he's now taking readers inside an ER shift hour by hour in his new book.
And Canada's first Inuit University is one step closer to opening its doors. We'll be joined by the mayor of Arviat, Joseph Vikatak Jr., to talk all about INU.
And remember to start your day with us live weekdays from 6 to 9 a.m. Eastern, 7 to 10 a.m. Atlantic on CTV, CTV News Channel, and Crave.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Your Morning podcast. We have a lot of great conversations for you on today's episode, including a look at two new healthcare studies. The first one focuses on how timing cancer treatment could increase survival rates. The other is all about how subtle changes in sleep can signal an increased risk of relapse in people who have major depressive disorder.
Speaking of sleep, we are also finding out why sleep divorces are on the rise. Have you heard of these sleep divorces? And why doing that might actually strengthen your relationship.
Love that. And spring training is officially underway for the Toronto Blue Jays. We know that expectations for this team sky high. So we're going to talk with baseball analyst Rich Griffin to get a first look at the team ahead of the official season. But before all of that, he's one of my favorites. Here's SterlingKBrown on his hit show Paradise and reflecting on a major decade of career success. SterlingKBrown has dominated some of TV's most popular dramas, and now he is captivating fans once again in a great show called Paradise.
I spent the last 3 years in an underground bunker.
Wow, so it's real.
Yeah, it's real.
What's it like?
It's like before, only creepier.
Guys, it's such a cool show. So here's what happens. 3 days after a doomsday event, Secret Service agent Xavier Collins is living underground in this bunker that's manufactured to look and operate like a city. The death of the U.S. president leads Xavier on a journey to figure out what's left on the surface while revealing secrets from the past. The second season of Paradise is dropping soon, and we have Sterling here with us back in our studio. Good morning and welcome back.
Thank you very much. Good to be back.
Listen, I want to talk about the last time you were here before we get started.
Let's do it.
It was 10 years ago. It was 2016, and we pulled this so you could take a look back in time. You had just won your first Emmy. Have a listen.
I've been doing this for 15 years, and all of a sudden this year, things have sort of exploded. People recognize me and know my name, where I've used to been sort of walking under the radar, but I'm getting used to a new... That's crazy.
Okay, what do you think when you see and listen to that?
A lot less gray. Lot less gray, lot less hair or whatnot. But it's amazing what the last 10 years has been like, because I did operate in obscurity for a long time. And now to be someone that people know and appreciate being in their homes, it feels nice.
Not just know and appreciate, but really love. Like, you are a huge draw for people because one of the things I love about watching you in this show is we see all the range. We see serious,
yeah.
We see angry,
sure.
And then we hear that amazing laugh of yours when you're having these real moments
yeah.
of joy.
Yeah.
It's a great show. Listen, Dan Fogelman, who created This Is Us, you guys are working together on this project. And a few years after This Is Us ended, he reached out with you.
He did.
With this idea for Paradise. I'm going to show fans another video on YouTube.
Okay.
That'll give people maybe a better sense of your relationship.
All right, go ahead.
Have a look.
Nominated.
What?
You got a Golden Globe nomination.
Say it again?
You got the Golden Globe thing.
I did?
Yeah, I just saw it.
Talk to me about your relationship with Dan Fogelman, because it looks like you guys get along really well, outside of work as well.
Exceptionally well. I think I am, I'm the black version of him, he's the Jewish version of me. We just kind of understand each other in a really peculiar way. We entered into fatherhood around the same time. We've been married for the same amount of time. And I think creatively, we both have this wonderful desire to sort of not be kept in a box, right? People think you're good at one thing, and you like to be known to be good for that one thing, but you also want to be good for a multitude of things. So he challenges and pushes himself as a writer in the same way that I try to challenge and push myself as an actor.
In my family, we call those wedding table friends. These are the adult friends you have that when your kids get married, they have to be at the wedding.
They'll definitely be at the wedding. Yeah.
Listen, people partly love this show because they're captivated by your ability to deliver these deep emotions that they feel right along with you.
Yeah.
You see it in This Is Us. Listen, on This Is Us, we would come into work and people would be like, did you cry? That was the first question.
Really?
Because you'd bring out this great emotion. Talk to me about your preparation for the scenes, whether you're going to be great joy or hard things like your relationship with your dad.
Sure. You know what? First and foremost, you just try to memorize your lines. Because that
number
will...
one job of an actor.
There you go. That will anchor you into the scene in a very real way. And then you just try to act as if. Like the brain doesn't know the difference between pretend and real. If you convince yourself that it's real, because when people watch you, you want them to believe that it's real. So you have to sort of convince yourself of the same thing. And so you find yourself going through like these roller coaster of emotion throughout the course of the day because you just want to connect. At the end of the day, you want people to feel what you feel in such a way that they don't feel alone in having that experience, that somebody else understands what they're going through. So I take it seriously, but I take the play of it seriously as well. It's a lot of fun. Like going through all of this stuff, even the highs and the lows, like it's a lot of fun because at the end of the day, when people come to you and say like, hey man, I felt like you understood that, that means the world to me.
I also feel like when you get mad in the show, that you're mad at me, and I think I would never want him to be mad at me in real life.
People don't want me to be mad at them. This is something that my children tell me all the time.
Oh, yeah?
They're like, Dad doesn't get mad very often, but when he does, watch out.
Really quickly, last question as a fan. Would you rather live above or below?
Ground?
Yes.
I think above. I think like being in paradise or something, if you're not there of your own volition, it's almost like being in a zoo. It's almost an entrapment.
Yeah.
But if I have a say in it, no, I need freedom. Freedom is good. Outdoors means I can come and go as I please.
The show is really fantastic. Congratulations.
Thank you, Anne-Marie.
On season 2.
It is, what a great interview. I mean, so fun. And one of the things that our viewers and listeners don't get to see is the conversations that happen in between. And what I mean by that is, after you finish the interview and we throw to break, and then you at home are watching the commercials, there's conversations that happen with the guests in that time.
Oh, it's so much fun. So because obviously, he had worked on This Is Us, which is about triplets. And I had not expected him to know as much as he did about triplets. And for anybody who doesn't know, I have a set of triplets, 2 girls and a boy. So immediately, we finished the interview, and he says to me, he goes, so did you make it to 34 weeks? Which tells me he knew, because that's sort of a marker when you have triplets. They don't expect you to go to 40 weeks. So we did 33 weeks in a day. And then he asks me, he said, natural or C-section, which also is, listen, for 3 babies to be in birthing position at the same time just doesn't happen. They automatically book you a C-section, usually at 34 or 36 weeks. So I said to him, I'm not a cat. I had a C-section. I have a litter of children, but I did not birth them that way. And he laughed so hard. And to me, it was such a great accomplishment to make him, he walk around the studio laughing.
What a great response. I'm not a cat. It's not my litter. Birth that way.
It's funny. I wasn't there the day that this interview happened, so I've listened to it with my eyes closed, and I'm immediately transported by his voice.
Oh, I know.
Back to the days of This Is Us. And God, that show.
You guys would come in. I forget what day it aired, but you would all be like, did you watch it? And you'd all talk about how hard you cried.
Every episode was so good.
You know that there are those shows or those pop culture things that happen during pivotal moments of your life. So that show came out, 10 years ago. We had just moved our family across the country. Jay and I were living in this brand new province with a tiny little baby, starting this show. And so there was so much change happening in our life that it was sometimes hard to process what was going on for us. So we'd watch that show, and that was like my release to feel. And it just takes you back. His voice takes me right back 10 years ago.
I love that you played a clip from him on our show 10 years ago. That was so fun. I always like to see that when we grab clips from the vault. If it's in this building, a musician that was playing here 30 years ago, because we do have this plethora of great footage from everything that's happened in this building. Hard to believe that was 10 years ago. We were all talking about that too.
Sometimes I wish we could put picture-in-picture. So if you could see, because you're at home, you're watching the clip, but I can see his face when he's watching himself. And he had this, he was really listening to see what he said. And a couple times he sort of squinted or grimaced, maybe he wished he could have changed what he said. But his first response was, wow, I'm a lot grayer now.
Yeah.
But how cool is it? This is just a little insider baseball, I guess. But how cool is it that we have those clips from our show being on the air? And to our viewers who have been there for the ride, who've been there from day one, thank you.
And do you remember when I posted a picture of SterlingKBrown and myself 10 years ago on the social medias.
Yeah, and you cropped all of us out?
Yeah, it was a group picture. But what ended up, I cropped everybody out except SterlingKBrown and myself.
And conveniently, she couldn't find the original, but the PR person that came with him
had it
and sent it to us.
Oh, so good.
Baseball is back. Pitchers and catchers reporting for spring training, and Blue Jays fans are hoping this might be the year. The Jays are coming off that heartbreaking Game 7 loss at the World Series. Expectations are high this season. So who's back? Who's gone? And what does this mean for Toronto's chances in 2026? Oh, yeah, let's just relive the good moments. Rich Griffin, baseball analyst and co-host of the Exit Philosophy podcast, is with us to break down this new season. Good morning. Welcome back.
Good morning, Anne-Marie.
Let's get started with the Blue Jays getting hit with some major injuries ahead of spring training. Anthony Santander is out with 5 to 6 months with a shoulder injury. But Francis is going to miss the whole season. Shane Bieber has forearm fatigue. How much of a concern is this early on?
Well, it is a concern, but Anthony Santander wasn't a big factor last season, even though he was in the first year of a big 5-year contract. So they made do last year without him, and they're going to have to do it until at least late August this year. And Bowden Francis began last year as a member of the 5-man rotation, but that only lasted a month and a half. So his loss was made up for by some of the acquisitions that they made in the offseason.
Okay, meantime, we have added some new players to this season's roster, including pitcher Dylan Cease, Kazuma Okamoto. So what are you most excited to see this season?
Well, I'm excited to see Dylan Cease because whenever the Blue Jays faced him in the past, I thought, this could be a loss. He could dominate because he's got some of the best stuff in baseball. He said he was signing with the Blue Jays because he heard that Pete Walker, the pitching coach, could help him. And with the stuff that he brings to the table, I'm excited to see what he can do in a full season in a Blue Jays uniform.
Yeah, one other thing I wanted to ask you about is there was real love for this team last season, not just for how they played together on the field, especially during the playoffs, but also about their families. And fans here in Toronto and the country really got to know them on and off the field. So what can fans expect with this new lineup that we have? It won't be the same, but will it have a similar attachment for fans?
Well, they brought in Kazuma Okamoto, a Japanese all-star third baseman. And, of course, he's replacing Bo Bichette, who was a big part of this lineup. And I'm afraid that what they might find out is that Bo Bichette is to the Blue Jays what Mitch Marner was to the Maple Leafs. When he left, they didn't think it was going to be that big an influence. But it certainly has turned out that way. And Bo Bichette was always an underrated offensive player. But Okamoto has the potential to replace him. Ernie Clement came to the fore in the World Series in the postseason. And Vlad Guerrero is finally hitting his stride as one of the top hitters in baseball. And as you pointed out, Anne-Marie, it's a team that came together and became a joy for Canadians across the country.
They really were a joy to watch. And I think everybody, related to Ernie Clement when he was in tears talking about, the not being able to come back to this family every day to play. This time last year, Blue Jays fans were asking a lot of questions about this team and the future of Vladimir Guerrero Jr. But this year's spring training is a lot different. Expectations are much higher. How far do you think the Jays can go this year?
Well, there's a lot of factors involved in trying to repeat. Only 6 teams have gone back-to-back to a World Series since 2001. So the last 24 years, only 6 teams have been able to do it. It's a lot different being the defending American League champions. There's a lot more attention at spring training. Teams set up their rotation to face you, to take you down. You're the hunted, no longer the hunter. And I think that the Jays have a huge chance because of that closeness inside the clubhouse. But once they step out the door, it's going to be a brave new world of attention from North American media, from other teams towards them. And I think that it's going to be a tough task in the toughest division in baseball. But looking at 162 game schedule, this team is built for that in terms of the versatility, the depth of the lineup, and the starting rotation, which now goes 6 or 7 deep as opposed to just 5.
Rich, I'm going to remember that. Excuse me, the hunter, no longer the hunted. Thanks for joining us. Great to have you on so early in the season. Rich Griffin, baseball analyst and co-host of The Exit Philosophy.
Thank you, Anne-Marie.
Thanks so much.
This morning, we are taking you inside the emergency room. No one ends up in an ER because they want to be there, unless, of course, you're part of the medical team who works there. Our next guest falls under that category. Dr. Brian Goldman has spent 4 decades working in the ER. He's now taking readers back inside an ER shift, hour by hour, in his new book. It is called The Casino Shift. Dr. Goldman, welcome back to the show.
Hi, Lindsay.
So your first book, I mean, that was in 2010. And in the book, you talked about working that 12-hour night shift. This is a casino shift. It is shorter. Tell people what it is exactly.
So a casino shift, borrowed from the casino industry, is a split night shift. You start at 10 a.m., you end around 4. You start at 10 p.m., you end around 4 a.m. And then in many emergency departments, there's somebody who arrives at 4 a.m., bleary-eyed, I guess like you.
Oh, yeah.
And they work until 10 a.m. The idea is that it's less debilitating than working a full-on night shift because you get to sleep 2 or 3 hours in your own bed in the darkness, and you get a few more hours of light during the day, and it helps keep you, you're sleep deprived, but you're not as discombobulated as you are during night shifts.
Of course. And this idea was first tried out in Halifax, is that right?
That's right.
Yeah, and that was years ago.
Years ago, and it turns out that if you survey physicians who do casino shifts and compare them to night shifts, they don't want to go back. They want to do casino shifts.
And your preference?
Casino shifts.
Yeah, for sure. When you walk through the doors, just to get a sense of the lay of the land, and you walk through this in the book, when you walk through the doors to go to work, what is the first thing you do?
The first thing that you do is check out the waiting room because, in the first book in the night shift, I talked about hallway medicine. Now it's waiting room medicine. You don't know how many patients you're going to have in the waiting room. And, there are emergency departments that have 10, 20, 30, 50, 80 patients in the waiting room waiting to be seen. And it's like a needle in a haystack. 4 or 5 of them could go south, could get very sick very quickly. And they're often not the loudest people. They're the quietest people. They may have belly pain, and it turns out they have appendicitis. And then if it perforates, they can go septic. Or if they have an ectopic or tubal pregnancy, it can rupture. And you can have a serious situation turn into a catastrophe. So you want to find out what you've got. You want to find out how many stretchers you've got. I have colleagues who arrive for a 6 or 7 a.m. shift with 2 or 3 working stretchers to see every critically ill patient who arrives by ambulance, on foot, or by taxi, by Uber.
Unbelievable. And what was interesting to me, which also stood out from the pages of your book, is you talk about, when you get the call to go in early, the anxiety that happens for you, not knowing what you're going to be faced with on that shift. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Well, first of all, we all have our rituals. I have a colleague who used to work permanent night shifts, and he would arrive an hour and a half early and go downstairs to the doctor's office because he wanted to compose himself for an hour and a half. Well, imagine if that's taken away and you're just told, we need you, come on in now. Okay. And so you come in, you have to drop whatever you're doing, and so what you have to do is try to compose yourself. We all have different techniques. I do breathing, I do box breathing, and that's how I get myself ready. You try to visualize what you're going to do, and eventually, once you're there, you're okay. The anxiety's gone.
Of course, it's always the anticipation, right? And then you get down to work. Let's talk about technology. I mean, you've been a doctor for decades. It has changed, obviously, over the years, especially recently. And I found it really interesting when you talk about the use of smartphones when you're giving a diagnosis. Talk to me a little bit about how it's changed over the years.
Well, soon we're going to have AI, and we'll have AI scribes that'll come with us into the cubicle beside the patient, and they'll be taking the history for us, or at least they'll be recording the history. But the thing I talk about a lot in the casino shift are these portable ultrasound machines. Now, you might have seen emergency physicians lugging what looks like a laptop on a cart. Well, now I have a probe in my fanny pack that plugs into my smartphone and can deliver crisp images of your heart, your lungs, to see if you've got a fracture, to see if you've got blood in your belly, if you have an aortic aneurysm in your belly that needs to be fixed right away. That's one of the major technological improvements.
Amazing.
It enhances your physical examination right there at the bedside, and you can whip it out anywhere.
And how helpful for you. One of the stories that we always talk about here in this country is the lack of doctors, the family physicians for people that don't have access to a family doctor. You went to Denmark last January.
Yep.
You say in Denmark, 98% not people have family doctors? What are they doing right? What lesson can we learn from them?
Well, I think the most important thing is that they have something called mandatory enrollments. You know, when your kids reach school age, they know what school they're going to. You know what school they're going to because of mandatory enrollment. If you had mandatory enrollment with GPs, that's what they call their family physicians, then right on their equivalent of a social insurance card, right there, the name of your physician is written. You don't have to go searching for one. Do you know people who have said, you know, my family physician retired, they died, they moved away.
Of course.
Do you have a new one? You don't have to look for a new one. They provide one for you.
Dr. Brian Goldman, thank you for being here. We really appreciate it.
I enjoyed it.
You're listening to Your Morning, the podcast, where we bring you some of our best conversations from the show every week. You can also join us live on CTV every weekday, 6 to 9 a.m. Eastern and 7 to 10 a.m. Atlantic on CTV News Channel, and now we're on Crave. Canada's first Inuit University is one step closer to opening its doors. This week, ITK President Nathan Obed announced that the Arviat Hamlet in Nunavut will host the main campus of Inuit Nunagat University. The campus is set to welcome its first students in 2030. And for more on what it will look like, we are joined by Arviat Mayor Joe Sack-Vicatak Jr. Good morning. Welcome to Your Morning. Thanks for being with us.
Good morning, Anne-Marie. Thank you for having me on your show.
So excited to learn more about this. The board of directors unanimously decided that Arviat Hamlet was the place to be out of more than 50 locations. What gave you the winning bid?
Well, it's the location of our community and readiness for infrastructure-wise to make sure that we could be the home of the university. As there was a lot of requirements to be considered to make sure the university will be in a proper place.
INU, as it will be known, is expected to welcome 100 students when it finally opens in 2030. The university's charter said, guided by Inuit Malagite and driven by our vision and our mission, INU prioritizes the empowerment, safety, physical, mental, and spiritual well-being of students. We do this by providing unique learning environments, rigorous education programs, and an institutional culture that is grounded in, reflects and supports and promotes our Inuit way of life. So that is the official sort of press release version. Tell me in your own language, what will the student experience at INU look like?
Well, it'll be quite a unique experience for everyone coming to the university, as this is a historic moment in Canada, and it's the first university in the Arctic, and the home of my home community, which will be the new home of the university, is very strong still in the Inuktitut language. It's still the street language. It's the home language. And the culture is still right there with the Inuit people, and all the students will get to experience that when they get to Arviat.
Arviat, most people won't know this, Arviat is home to around 3,000 people. So what kind of infrastructure needs to be put in place to support the university?
We were definitely prepared for this. ITK were very precise on the requirements that were needed in terms of infrastructure to make sure there's enough water capacity, waste management, power supplies, fuel, runways, grocery stores, all of that, including availability of land for the university main campus and accommodations were required. And we met all those requirements, including the cultural and language of the Inuit.
What I love is that this university is going to be in the territory. Right now, Inuit University students have to travel south or even abroad to get a post-secondary education. But INU is going to expand to have knowledge centers in Nunavut, Northwest Territories, and in Quebec. So talk to me about the importance of having the option of studying on Inuit territory once the university opens.
First, I want to say that Inuit are a very, very close-knit community people. And this will be very good for the Inuit people of Inuit and others in Canada that want to study in their homeland in the Arctic and not have to travel abroad and far away from home to pursue and get a better education. This will be a game changer for the Inuit and the people of Canada.
And tell me what you are most excited about. Like in your community, you're going to have an influx of students and there's going to be teachers. I mean, it's really going to change the environment of 3,000 people.
It will definitely have a huge impact, and we are prepared for that. The community overwhelmingly supported to wanting to be the home for the university, and we are eager to showcase what we can offer to rest of the country and possibly even rest of the world. Looking forward to that.
So let me ask you that then. And this university is going to be open to anybody in Canada, and as you just said, the world. Because I have kids that are heading to university, and I mean, I would like to head to a university in the North. What an amazing place to study.
It'll be quite unique. Very nice community on the Hudson Bay. There's no trees as it's in the Arctic, very cold. It'll be one-of-a-kind experience for people that will be coming to our home community, and we are very humbled to be the home for the university.
Mayor, I sure appreciate you joining us for this conversation today. Thank you and congratulations.
Good morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Science is constantly making strides in the world of healthcare, and 2 new studies are marking a breakthrough for different conditions. The first looks at a simple tweak to make cancer treatments more effective, while the second found connections between sleep and depression. Joining us with more on both of these studies is CTV Science and Technology Specialist Dan Riskin. Both of these of great interest to everyone in the country.
Yeah.
The first one looked at something called checkpoint inhibitors, which are kind of drugs that helps immune cells kill cancer. And according to the research, the timing of when that treatment is administered makes a big difference.
Yeah, so there was anecdotal evidence from people who had gotten treatment for certain types of cancer with certain drugs. There are these checkpoint inhibitors. That people who had their appointments in the morning were doing better than people who had their appointments in the afternoon. And at first, people were like, well, that's weird, but is it real? Let's do an experiment. Love science. So they made a randomized study. They took 212 people, and half of them were assigned to get their treatments in the morning, and half of them were assigned to get their treatments after 3 p.m. And then they just compared the survival rates, and it was unreal. It was almost double the survival rate if you had it in the morning. So what they measured was the likelihood of surviving each month as the treatment went on. This is a very aggressive cancer, very hard to survive. And the people who were in the afternoon cohort, they would, on average, survive 17 months from the start of treatment, which it was very aggressive. People that were in the morning cohort were surviving on average 28 months.
Oh, my goodness.
So a huge difference, almost double.
And do they know why?
Well, I mean, it gets into the molecular stuff. I mean, these checkpoint inhibitors, basically it's a drug that tells your immune system, just go nuts. Don't hold back, just attack. And when you give these drugs, what the immune system's up to at that time has a lot of relevance. And it turns out that they're going after the cancer cells earlier in the day and not as much later in the day. And so if they're working on the cancer cells, and then you get the drug that says, go nuts, attack, they have a lot more, your body has a better success rate at attacking those cancer cells.
Oh, my brain goes to all kinds of things, like how do we staff so there's more people in the morning, so more people can get their appointments.
And is this true for every type of cancer?
Right.
Are there other treatments for other things that have a difference for time of day? And this is where I'm so excited about artificial intelligence, because this is where you could take a huge data set of people who had gotten a treatment for whatever and say, hey, AI, can you look for any kind of time of day signal in these data?
Oh, interesting.
And AI could be so good at pulling that out and saying, you know what, try it with this kidney treatment or try it with this other thing. So this was people getting treated for lung cancer, but it may be bigger than just that.
That is fascinating. Okay, let's take a look at the second study. It used those fitness tracking devices, like you're watching a ring, to gauge the risk of a relapse from a major depressive order. So what's the connection between the two?
Okay, so if you are somebody that suffers from major depressive disorder, that means you're in like the top 5% for the most severe symptoms for depression. And if you get better from an episode, there's a strong chance you're going to have a relapse in the coming years. So what they did for this study is they had people who fit that category. They were doing better, but they'd suffered from this before. They wore a fitness tracker, like a Fitbit, like an Apple Watch. It wasn't one of those, but it did the same thing. And then they followed people for about 100 Canadians across the country. And then when people did have a relapse, they looked back at the data to see if there was anything that could predict that was about to happen. And this signal jumped out in their sleep patterns 2 weeks before the major depressive relapse.
Wow.
And so if you look at people's sleep, if all of a sudden they switch to not sleeping at the same time of night, like some nights they stay up really late and then the next night they go to bed really early and then they stay up really late again, that timing shifting was very strongly predictive that something bad was coming in 2 weeks. Also, just the ratio of your peak activity levels to your minimum activity levels. When you're asleep, you shouldn't be moving very much.
Right.
And when you're awake, you should be moving a lot. And if those come closer together, like you're lethargic when you're awake and you're restless when you're asleep, that's also predictive. And so they could say, hey, there's double the risk that you're going to have a depressive episode in about 2 weeks. So this could be an app that comes for people that suffer from these things that can give warning before they're dealing with the symptoms of depression itself, which is a really exciting sort of promise from this kind of research.
Anybody who's been through it understands their own symptoms. They know what what the flags are. Poor quality sleep habits are something that doctors can easily screen for by just asking the basic questions. How often are you sleeping? How long are you sleeping? Why is the data tracker more useful?
Well, I think that what this does is it tracks things like how much are you actually asleep through the night when you think you're asleep. Like people move around a lot, and there are lots of studies where you ask somebody and you look at the actual data and there's a mismatch. And sometimes what they think happened is the more important variable, but sometimes what actually happened is what really drives it. And so this is a way to have passive monitoring, but it also says that if somebody's suffering from these depressive symptoms, yes, treat those symptoms, but also maybe some therapy for sleep could really start to help.
Two fascinating studies. Thanks for telling us.
Thank you.
Question for you, Canada. How'd you sleep last night? Was your partner snoring or moving around in the bed too much? Were you? Lots of couples find it difficult sleeping next to each other, and it can cause all sorts of issues. So maybe instead of breaking up, maybe a sleep divorce is the way to go. Here with more on what that is sleep expert Amanda Jewson. Good morning.
Hello, good morning.
So what is a sleep divorce and why are so many people choosing it?
It sounds so harsh, but really it's just when couples sleep apart. That's it. So it's making the conscious decision to uncouple in overnight. And generally people do it for all of the reasons that you're talking about. I have friends who did it because a partner worked odd hours. They were a doctor and they were coming home at weird hours and it was bothering the other person. Other folks may do it because of snoring, apnea, restless leg, too much movement. And really it's just one person waking up the other frequently, and it's creating conflict.
We love to coin things. We love to name them. So I'm here for the term sleep divorce.
Me too. I like it.
If we sleep apart, what impact can that have on our relationship?
It's a good question. I mean, I think that what I like to do is I like to go in the data. And about 18 months ago, there was a study that was just published that talked about partner sleep conflict. So these are people, there was about 150 couples, and they looked at these couples, and couples who fought about their sleep during the day, they were, not connecting, they reported resentment, there was friction. And so we can only assume that when you are not sleeping together, if you have conflict especially, that the stuff that happens at night is going to come into the daytime. So we really want to create scenarios where people have the opportunity to hate their partner less, right, in the day. And I know it's so simple, but we don't necessarily consider we're unconscious, it's not a big deal. But now we have data showing it actually is.
Yeah, well, it makes a lot of sense. If you're fighting about sleep, but then two, you're not sleeping, you're also going to be more tired, less tolerant, probably more reactive. The fights are going to be bigger. And it's like a vicious cycle that keeps going.
This is it. You're taking the words out of my mouth. We know that partners who aren't sleeping well, they resent their partners. And resentment is a relationship killer. So it can have a pretty big impact.
Okay, if we want to flirt with the idea of a sleep divorce, how do we do it?
So I like the idea as framing it as an experiment with a very clear time. So we're going to try this for 2 weeks. Let's see how we feel, because people don't know necessarily how they're going to feel on the outcome. And so you set that time, but I think it's also important that if you're separating here, keep those shared rituals that you do have. And if you don't have them, this is a time to create them. So, maybe it's that you have different bedtimes. So at this time, we're going to watch a show together. At this time, we're going to turn off our phones and TVs and have a chat. So really create that shared ritual. Connect often with your partner and adjust as needed and see how it feels. You might change your mind.
Yeah, I was saying earlier in the show as a romantic, it feels hard to not sleep together, but I see the benefit, why it could work for many couples. So if you're kind of in that zone, what could couples do to get better sleep while still sleep married?
Sleep married. Okay, so what I hear a lot from my clients is their partner is moving a lot. So thinking about mattresses that support movement. So motion, the mattresses that when your partner moves, you're not going to feel it. There are possibilities to get a king size mattress where you have two separate mattresses. If the mattress is a problem, maybe someone needs something firm, the other needs something soft. You can do the two single mattresses and try that way. Really investing in noise canceling items. So white noise canceling, headphones, earphones, a podcast, etc. And obviously I'm going to be partial to seeing a professional. If you have apnea, if you're snoring, if you're moving constantly and the culprit doesn't feel rested, it's time to see a doctor.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Here is a question for you this morning. If you could have a second chance at your first big love, would you take it? Our next guest did. Shelley Saywell fell head over heels, love at first sight, as a teenager with a boy called Daniel Peterson, or just Pete at the time. Bad timing, botched long-term commitments, but they reconnect nearly 30 years later thanks to a well-timed email. And the rest, as they say, was history. Saywell is revisiting all the twists and heartbreaking turns of her epic love story in her new memoir, If Only Love. Shelley is in our studio this morning. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
Listen, you are known for your award-winning work as a filmmaker and as a storyteller with other people as a subject. What was it like to turn the lens on yourself? And how did you know objectively the story I have is one that I can share?
Well, it's completely crazy because all those years of telling people's stories in actually essentially traumatic situations informed me. And then when I was going through the grief of losing Daniel Peterson, all I could think of was to write. And I wasn't thinking about sharing it, actually. It was very internal. It was a meditation.
So what turned it into a book?
Well, it just sort of wrote itself. I needed to do it. And then I started to share it with friends and family, and everybody said, Shell, you have to make this into a book.
Yeah.
So it became.
And you were just sharing with me, this is resonating with women from across the country who are starting to reach out to you.
Yes, I'm hearing from young women too, who are writing me saying, your book has given me hope. What I'm realizing is everyone's got a what if story.
Yeah.
And everybody's looking for connection, deep connection with somebody.
Okay, enough talking about your story. I want you to delve into some of the details. You first met Daniel as a teenager. You were calling him Pete at this point. His last name, of course, was Peterson, as we mentioned, and it was this classic love at first sight. And there's a photo of where you're looking at him. Look at your face. You're looking at him on the train. That is heart eyes. You see it all over your face. Talk to me about the early days of your relationship, how you met and what the early moments of that were like.
So I met him the first day of school in Japan at a boarding school, walking around trying to get my bearings. And he was sitting on the front steps and he smiled at me. And that was it.
Wow.
The eyes fall in love first.
Yes.
And I was done. And then right at that moment, this girl walks into his arms and I realized he hadn't been smiling at me at all. But I wanted to be her.
Wow.
And it took quite a few months. I think everyone who was in high school had a big crush can relate. It was torment.
Yes.
Until he sort of noticed me.
Finally noticed you.
Then we were a thing.
You guys eventually went on then to lose touch. You reconnect about 30 years later thanks to a website that reconnected classmates. This happens sometimes. You sent him an email. Pete, it's Shelley. I can't believe it. What have you been doing for 29 years? Write me. And then he responded. He did.
Well, it wasn't a question. It wasn't like, please write me. It was like, write me.
Yeah.
And I went out for dinner. I came back and I literally got the answer to a 30-year mystery.
Wow.
He wrote me what had happened to him. I had no clue what had happened to him. He'd been a guitar player in Nashville.
Wow.
He had this phenomenal career. And so we just started to exchange these letters about our lives.
And just without giving too much away, Shelley, because you do reconnect.
Yes.
And then you go through, as you say, the loss of Daniel, which is what prompted you to write the story. Where are you sitting at today? Like, what's it like to relive all of this?
One of the things is with grief is everybody goes through it differently. But for me, what healed me was what hurt the most, which was the love. And so, having written the book, gone back into those many, 150 pages of emails. So his voice is in the book too. Has been an incredible experience for me, because I feel like now our story is kind of out there forever.
And it keeps it alive.
And it keeps, but it's also something I think that gives hope to other people, because, as we said earlier, everybody's got one. Everybody's got that first love.
Shelley, it was such a pleasure to meet you. Thank you for coming on today.
Thank you so much.
A reminder, the book is called If Only Love, a memoir of second chances.
We're so glad you joined us today.
If you want more great conversations, don't forget to download or hit subscribe to Your Morning, the podcast, on all podcast platforms.
And of course, we'd love for you to watch us live weekday mornings on CTV, CTV News Channel, and Crave. Start your morning with us.